Welcome back. All right, so let us discuss the news of the day for today. A relatively bright day out and all. Nice spring day. So nice that it's spring. The board of governors has approved the lottery change that we saw coming. So we will discuss it one last time before we have to discuss it again before the draft lottery, and then probably have to discuss it again after the draft lottery. So last year's draft lottery didn't make anybody happy. And they really felt that, hey, Detroit really got hosed there. It's interesting that it depends on which team's getting kind of screwed over. I watched Vancouver get screwed over a few times, and people were like, it's all right. Okay, that's fine. But again, the NHL's making a change, and good on them for admitting that things need to change. And hey, here's what's going to happen. So this year there will be one big change, which is there's only two picks, reportedly only two picks, that will be lottery decided. So if you're the last place team in the league, Buffalo, it's gonna be Buffalo. If you're the last place team in the league, you're drafting no lower than third, and they could draft Matt Beniers, might be Luke Hughes, and people will ask, what about Ratu? Ratu hasn't been highly thought of for the last, I'll say, 6-8 months. He might be a great pick in the top 10. He might end up being a huge value pick, but yeah, his stock dropped as 2020 rolled along. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets picked where, because there isn't really. Owen Power is kind of seen as the most likely to go first, but it's not a star-studded draft. So they're kind of getting things ready for next year when they know next year's draft is going to be star-studded. A limit of 2 wins in any 5-year period. They'll start tracking that next year, not this year apparently. And a limit to moving up 10 spots. That kicks in next year as well. So that's not supposed to kick in this year, at least from what I was reading. So it'll be interesting to see what the National Hockey League does and how long this setup lasts. But again, this is just a matter of making minor adjustments here and there to try to make the whole thing a little more fair, while making sure that you're not seeing teams intentionally blowing everything up to try to get the number one draft pick. That's why the lottery exists in the first place. And at this point, I think even if the NHL is saying, well, I don't think that really happens anymore, I really can't see the lottery going anywhere, because it does encourage a lot of interest. It does definitely give them some other big media event to look forward to, and it gives fans of teams that didn't make the playoffs something to look forward to as well. So we'll see who ends up winning the lottery this year. I want to talk about Freddie Andersen. So the entire Toronto Maple Leafs argument, which of course is going to dominate radio as it does in TV, and I was listening to it on the NHL radio broadcast yesterday, again on the way to and from Vancouver. I listen to NHL radio a lot. It gives you something different than what you see on TV. Although my only issue I had with it was one show to the next all kind of sounded very, very similar. It's all basically just, all right, so trade deadline fantasy, trade deadline. It all kind of just blends together. But Freddie Andersen, he's not at practice today. And so there's a lot of talk about, hey, Jack Campbell's going to be given a run here. He will, because Anderson's not healthy. I don't think Kyle Dubas makes a change in goal for this season. I think it'll be Anderson, and I think it'll be Campbell. And then after this season's done, and I don't know how much the players or playoffs, I should say, are going to matter to this, but I think a change will happen in the offseason. Now, if Freddie Andersen goes on an incredible run and the Leafs make it to the semifinals or the finals, then all bets are off. Then you can look at Freddie Andersen probably staying in Maple Leaf. But remember, expansion in the offseason. If you have a team that has a rough time in goal and you're like, our goaltending sucks, why isn't the GM fixing it? You might be looking at the offseason. Seattle is going to make things very, very interesting for a lot of teams. You can only protect one goaltender. And with the amount of goaltenders that are playing this year, we've seen just how much depth there is in goal in the NHL. I think it means that we're going to see some teams in the offseason who may be in a situation like Toronto where they're looking for an upgrade in net. They might be able to find that from a team that can't protect both of its pretty good goaltenders. So Toronto may go out and grab a goaltender and trade from a team. They may be able to do it for less value than they normally would have to give up, because of the fact that this team would just lose that player for nothing to Seattle. And It might mean Campbell being exposed, but I don't think Campbell gets picked up in the expansion draft either. So I don't think I understand the panic and the we don't trust Freddie and some of that. I think it gets overblown at times. I don't think Freddie will have a hard time finding a job once his time's done in Toronto, but I don't think Freddie comes back. And I really think that because of expansion, Kyle Dubas will have options in the offseason. And I think there'll be some decent options for him. And again, with Toronto, the question becomes one of, so how long is this window going to remain open? And it's an interesting question to ask. And the other thing that I find interesting is, while everybody's focusing on Anderson, I've found Tavares to be kind of underwhelming this year, and it's kind of flown under the radar that he's been kind of underwhelming. Because Marner's picked it up, and Nylander's been really, really good during his hot streaks this year. And I don't know, just it's odd to me. But again, goaltender will always be a lightning rod for any fan base. That's kind of a standard thing. Dougie Hamilton. So Carolina was trying to figure out a contract with him, and it looks like it was going so well they've decided to just forget about the negotiations until the offseason. This could go either way. You could end up with a situation where he signs a long-term extension, he sticks around, or it might be another Pietrangelo where he ends up leaving like Pietrangelo did with St. Louis. I will say this, they can't overpay Dougie Hamilton. You've got a lot of really good young players in Carolina, and as much as it would be great to keep Dougie Hamilton there, honestly, they have a really good defense core altogether, and if they overpay Dougie Hamilton, I think they're going to regret it. So, Don Waddell doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to make that kind of a move. And I don't know. This could go either way with Dougie, whether or not they keep him. Well, it'll be very interesting to see what they do. I think the emergence of Jake Bean as being a good offensive option on the blue line means that if Hamilton leaves, it stings a lot less. So we'll see. And then you may be able to find a defenseman in free agency who may be able to provide not the offense that Hamilton does, but enough solid top 6 minutes. The Bean can just end up in the top 4, and it might be perfectly fine. So we'll see what Hamilton gets. He's had problems with negotiating contracts before. That was part of the reason Boston traded him when they did. So we'll see. Buffalo reached a low last night. I know. They're always reaching a low. Last night was their 14th straight loss. Ties a franchise record. They can make it 15 in the next one and set a new franchise. It just feels like they're all lows for Buffalo. And this is a team that hasn't made the playoffs in a decade, and they're just... Yeah, so... One thing that they said on the radio was that the one host said, well, Buffalo can't lose all the games for the rest of the season. I laughed and said, want to bet? They can sure try. That's where we're at. So, again, the radio doesn't hear me and doesn't talk back. TV doesn't either when I'm watching games, and I'm what? Anyways, last night Pierre McGuire said the most random thing I've ever heard of. If you watch the game, him mentioning there's a commercial for Kit Kat during the game, and then he said Kit Kat always reminds me of Jaromir Jagr, and it's like that's the most random thing. That's the most Pierre McGuire thing. What? Just anyways, all right. Just out there, almost as random as me mentioning it, right? Okay. So last night there was some controversy. Honestly, here's the thing. So game pucks, right? Game pucks, and it's been a discussion before with the game puck scenario with, remember Keandre Miller, and there was all that Tony DeAngelo talk. Tony DeAngelo didn't take Keandre Miller's puck. Rasmus Andersson, however, did appear to try to take the game puck that would have been Philip Gustafsson's first win over the Calgary Flames, his first start and all that. And it looks like Matthew Tkachuk was the one that slapped it around the boards to get it to him. And there was a lot of discussion about, how dare the Flames. And then there was another video posted like, hey, Carey Price took the puck away from Brady Tkachuk. He was going to throw it away after Caden Primo's first win. However, that situation of the game puck was just Brady claimed he didn't know that was Caden Primo's first win, and it is standard for Brady Tkachuk to take the puck and throw it to the fans. But it's such a weird, I don't know, game pucks are strange. Like you have, right now on the Canucks site, you can get goal pucks, right? And you can get a goal puck for $225 with Tyler Mott scoring against Ottawa. And I thought, and the reason I remember that is because, again, randomness. I just thought that was, I thought, where do you put that? What do you, like, do you tell somebody someday this was a game puck of a, or, Tyler Mott scored a goal on Ottawa with this puck? It's a puck. And I'm glad that we have these traditions in hockey. It's wrong for Anderson to try to take the puck. But again, we haven't heard from Anderson either. We only know what we saw during the game. And, that I again, I'd be interested to know from the Flames' perspective. And the problem with that, of course, is if Rasmus Anderson says, well, I didn't know, then people are going to say, of course he knew. Much like with Brady Tkachuk, when he had Caden Primo's, people said, well, of course he knew that was Caden Primo's first win. Well, it would be easy for a guy not to know that. But yeah, what do you guys think about Anderson trying to maybe smuggle out the game puck? And I do wonder how often that happens. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like I said, even collecting goal pucks to me is weird because I don't. What do you do with it? If it's a goal puck for a really important playoff game and it's the game-winning goal puck for like Pavel Bure back in '94 over Calgary, or over the big Greg Adams goal over Toronto, yeah, those would be great pucks to have. Probably very expensive, but when it's just $200 for a random, it's a puck. I don't know. It's weird. And I say that as somebody that collects all the jerseys. And I look at that and I go, that's kind of weird. All right. Let me know what you guys think, though, about the whole game puck discussion. I think referees and linesmen should be the ones that are picking that up at the end of the game anyways, right? And then they hand it out. If there's some kind of a reason to have to hand that out, they should be the one handing it out. But again, let me know your thoughts. Alex Formenton, if you've been waiting for him to get into the Ottawa Senators lineup, and the expectation with Formenton is that he will play as a top six forward. That's why they've held him off as long as they have. They don't want him languishing in bottom six. Apparently, he's making his NHL debut tomorrow's game, and it'll be his first game since November 1st of 2018, and it's with Austin Watson out that he'll be making his first appearance. So I'm wondering if they're going to put him in the top six or if he's going to slot into a third line spot or how this is going to work. But this is why he's been percolating, for lack of a better term, as long as he has, and waiting for his chance, is that they want to make sure he's put into a position where he's going to succeed. And they don't feel like having him on the fourth line or a healthy scratch or anything like that would be, recipe for success. So we'll see how he does when he gets to play tomorrow night. All right, and if you're a Dallas fan, you're not surprised to hear I'm going to talk about some injury stuff because that's what happens with Dallas. And really, most teams in the NHL right now are dealing with a lot of injuries. If you look at almost any roster, you're going to see a lot of major injuries. As an example, last night, Vancouver dealing with Horvat goes down. Well, they were already without Eagle, they were without Sutter, and they were without Pettersson. So that's all four of their opening night centers out. And there's a real possibility all four of their centers out for the next game. In Dallas's case, of course, they've been without Sagan all year. They've been without Bishop all year. And Radulov's missed a lot of games. And apparently Radulov, this is one of those things where it's a lingering lower body injury issue. And so it's going to be a problem for probably the rest of the regular season. Unless they just shut him down and he takes all the time he can to get back to 100%. So he's been in and out of the lineup. Maybe he plays tonight, maybe he doesn't. Kivi Ranta, all they're saying is he's likely out for a while with an injury he suffered in the last game. And Fox is a game-time decision. It didn't look great with him last game either. But at least it sounds like it's not that bad. But for Dallas, it's just been one after another after another. But again, for most teams in the NHL right now, we are looking at significant injuries. You've got a lot of games over a shorter period of time. We knew this was going to happen before the season started. And it is remarkable just how many injuries we're dealing with league-wide. And again, the schedule, like for instance, Pittsburgh, 16 games in 25 days. And it doesn't even feel like they've necessarily been busier than a lot of other teams. It's a lot of games in a short period of time. And we saw this coming before the season started. It doesn't make it any less alarming. And again, this is why when people say, this season doesn't count, or it's no big deal, whatever, they're not even trying. There's a lot of guys getting hurt, considering there are some who would argue they're not really even trying. And yeah, it's a rough year, and kudos to the players who are getting through it, and all the best to those who are injured and dealing with all of the ongoing scheduling issues that we have league-wide. And hey, let me know your thoughts regarding any of these items, especially with the Freddie Andersen. What do you think is the Leafs' best plan? And I'm talking about like next season. Like if you look at this season, you say, well, we need to upgrade from Freddie. Let me know what you think realistically works there. And it's not just, well, why don't they just trade for and like Hellebuck? Why don't they just trade for Hellebuck? That's all I do. I don't know why they don't get Vasilevsky. That's all I do. That's show your work. Drives me nuts on the internet when people do that. Well, why can't they just go get Kemper? I don't know. How are they going to get Kemper? Are they going to trade for Kemper? Let me know. And again, all the injuries and all the teams being besieged by injuries. It's crazy. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this video. And hey, is Beniers going to be the biggest steal in this year's draft? That's a question for you as well. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Or does he go number one? I will talk to you guys again soon.